Welcome to an Achieving Science video. This video is going to look at metal compounds and their identification. Let's just begin by looking at metal compounds and how you can tell what elements are in different metal compounds. We begin with metal hydroxides. Metal hydroxides are compounds that contain a metal, oxygen and hydrogen. For instance, potassium hydroxide. Potassium being the metal, and it is combined with oxygen and hydrogen and has the formula KOH. Metal hydroxide also have other features. They are insoluble. They precipitate out of solution when formed, and some of them are coloured. Let's look at the testing. By adding a few drops of sodium hydroxide solution, you can test what metal it contains. The result, if it is coloured, then you may be able to tell what metal it contains. Let's have a look at some of the results. With calcium, a white precipitate is formed. With copper 2, a blue one is formed. With iron 2, a green precipitate. With iron 3, a brown precipitate. With aluminium, a white precipitate is formed, but if you add more sodium hydroxide, it goes colourless. And finally, magnesium is also white. As you can see, there are 3 white precipitates. One of them goes colourless with additional sodium hydroxide, but 2 of them are white. The other ones are easier to identify. If we now form ionic equations for these reactions, we can see that the ions contained are shown on screen. We can write an equation to show what happens. So the calcium reacts with a hydroxide ion to form calcium hydroxide. Copper reacts with a hydroxide ion to form copper hydroxide. The same with iron, same with iron 3+, the same with aluminium, and the same with magnesium. Now let's look for testing carbonate ions. What are the products of a reaction between a carbonate and a dilute acid? Well, the carbonate produces salt, water and carbon dioxide. As carbon dioxide is produced, then we can carry out a test on the gas. Can you remember what the test for carbon dioxide is? Well, if we bubble the carbon dioxide through lime water, the lime water will go cloudy or milky if carbon dioxide is present, otherwise it will remain colourless. Now let's test for some halide ions. What is a halide first of all? Some examples include the chloride ion, bromide ion, the iodide ion. Now let's look for the test. When these halide ions are added to dilute nitric acid, followed by silver nitrate solution, what are the results? First, let's look at what we're reacting with. Dilute nitric acid, HNO3. You must use nitric acid as it contains no chloride ions, which would otherwise cause a white precipitate to be formed. Silver nitrate solution, AgNO3. So the halide ions. Well, we had the chloride ion, the bromide ion and the iodide ion. So what happens? What colour is the precipitate that is formed via this reaction? Well, for the chloride ion we have a white precipitate. For the bromide ion, a cream precipitate. And for the iodide ion, a yellow precipitate is formed. Let's now look at the equation. The ions are shown on screen. The equation shows you that the silver ion reacts with the chloride ion to form silver chloride. Same happens with the bromide. The same happens with the iodide. Now let's look for the test for the sulfate ions. The sulfite ion is SO4 2-. We can use the reaction with hydrochloric acid and barium chloride solution to identify the presence of a sulfate ion. Let's have a look. If a white precipitate is formed, then the sulfate ion is present. This is formed by the reaction between the barium ion and the sulfate ion. This is shown in the equation. So why was hydrochloric acid used? The hydrochloric acid is used to remove any carbonate ions.